What's up, everybody? Justin here, back with It's About Time. It's been a long time since I've done a year in wrestling reloaded video. I'm back to do a new one. This is Year in Wrestling 1990. Year in Wrestling Reloaded 1990 Part 1. I would appreciate it if you check out my first Year in Wrestling series. It's like over 100 videos from 1987. That's the year I became a fan and started watching WWF. So Year in Wrestling, the first series, check it out in the Year in Wrestling playlist. I cover 1987 up until 2015. So here we go. New Year in Wrestling Reloaded 1990 Part 1. Up first, I'm going to talk about the first two Saturday night main events that happened in 1990. The first one was January 27th, 1990. These were not live, they were taped. But so what? Just about every show WWF did was taped, except for pay-per-views. And then in 93, of course, Monday Night Raw started going live. So January 27th, 1990. The first match we had Macho Man Randy Savage, but he was known as King Macho, or not King Macho, Macho King. Macho King with Queen Sherry. So Macho King took on Hacksaw Jim Duggan. Macho King wins, defeats Hacksaw Jim Duggan. Up next on the January 27th, 1990 episode of Saturday Night's Main Event, Hulk Hogan and the Ultimate Warrior. They faced off in the Royal Rumble, had a good face-off, and went at it a little bit. That was kind of a preview to WrestleMania 6. But on Saturday Night's Main Event, they teamed up. The first Saturday Night's Main Event of 1990, the first one they teamed up. Hulk Hogan and the Ultimate Warrior defeated Mr. Perfect and the Genius. Up next, we had Jake the Snake Roberts defeated Greg the Hammer Valentine by disqualification. Dusty Rhodes up next. Polka dot wearing Dusty Rhodes. That was so stupid of, I just want to say, that was so stupid of Vince to try to make a fool out of Dusty and put him in polka dots. But it backfired on you, Vince, because Dusty got it over. So Dusty Rhodes, I don't know. I think Vince did want Dusty to be cheered and a babyface, but still he was trying to play a prank on him, and it was an evil, stupid, petty prank. Just because Dusty was competing with you for years in the NWA, that was wrong to put him in polka dots. And it was stupid as hell. Just really petty, Vince. Really petty. Dusty Rhodes took on Rick Rude. Ravishing Rick Rude and Dusty Rhodes up next. It ended in a double countout. By the way, all the Saturday Night's Main Events and Clash of Champions I'm talking about are on the WWE Network if you've never seen them. I've seen them all. I haven't watched the Saturday Night Main Events in like over 2 to 3 years. I don't know if I'll ever watch them again, to be honest. Because a lot of their matches they had on Saturday Night Main Events, a lot of the matches were not that good. Even the main events. They were really short and just not that good of matches. Clash of Champions NWA, WCW did a much better job putting on good matches on Clash of Champion events. I mean, just think about it. Flair Sting, the first Clash of Champions, that was a great match. Flair Steamboat. Clash of Champions, I don't want to get the number wrong, so I'll look it up. Clash of Champions 6 or 7. Clash of Champions 6. Flair and Steamboat had a great 2 out of 3 falls match at Clash of Champions 6. So, in my opinion, Saturday Night main events felt big, like really big events. The production was a lot better. The lighting was a lot better. The talent felt like larger than life superheroes on the show. But Clash of Champions, in my opinion, were better than Saturday Night main events. Only because they had better matches on them. So the final match of the January 27th Saturday night's main event, Dino Bravo defeated Rugged Ronnie Garvin. So the next Saturday night's main event I'll review and talk about it happened on April 28th, 1990. So this was after WrestleMania 6. I already talked about WrestleMania 6 twice in my Year in Wrestling 1990 video. Again, go back, find my Year in Wrestling playlist, and please check it out if you have not. Also, check out my Year in Wrestling Reloaded playlist if you have not. I've already reviewed WrestleMania 6 twice in a WrestleMania Rewind video also. So I'm not going to review it another time. I will say about the main event, Hogan and Warrior was damn good. It was really good. And that's thanks to Hulk Hogan. He carried Warrior. He was a veteran. The guy knew how to work. The guy knew how to put on a good, entertaining match. Especially in the 80s and 1990. He was still young. He was like in his 30s, I believe. Let's see if Hogan, I think he's 65 now or 66, I'm not sure. But let's say 65. Then in 1990, the guy that's 29 years ago. Close to 30 years ago. So the guy was 35, 36 years old. Or 33. He was around there. So Hogan carried Warrior, put him over, made him look great. Made him look better than he ever was. Because Warrior was a shit worker. I'm not sorry for saying that. The guy was a shit wrestler and shit worker. The guy had a great character. But the guy couldn't put on good matches unless it's with Hogan or Macho Man Randy Savage. That's it. Rick Rude also. But Rick Rude had to carry him. I will say one good thing about Warrior. The guy, again, had a great character. I didn't like how he's roided and juiced out of his head. The guy was on so many roids, so much juice the guy was on. It looked totally unnatural how jacked and big he was. But a lot of the wrestlers, Hogan, so many guys, probably 95% of the roster in WWF was on roids and on the juice. So my point is, Hogan carried Warrior, made him look good. At WrestleMania 6, put him over, gave the title, handed the title to him, kind of passed the torch. Even though Warrior did not deserve it, Warrior had a great character, and the guy had a ton of energy. That's the only good things I can say about the guy. He had tremendous energy. The guy was like shot out of a cannon. So April 28th, Saturday night's main event. Let's go with up first. We had Big Boss Man and Akeem. They were feuding. Akeem, by the way, was one-man gang. If somehow you didn't know that, now you know it. Big Boss Man and Akeem were a pretty damn good tag team. The Twin Towers. And Slick was in the corner of Akeem. Big Boss Man just turned babyface. The guy was pretty damn over. Big Boss Man wins by disqualification and defeats Akeem by DQ. Up next, we had the WWF champ. Maybe this was the main event. I'm not sure. WWF Championship on the line. The Ultimate Warrior probably making his first title defense against Haku. Ultimate Warrior wins, obviously. He won. Heart Foundation took on the Rockers. Two great tag teams from the 80s into the 90s. Heart Foundation Rockers, I'm sure, tore it up. I don't think the match was that long. It ended in a double disqualification. In about 1990, the Rockers actually won the tag titles from the Heart Foundation. But the top rope broke and they couldn't fix it. I believe the match was taped for Primetime Wrestling or something, or Superstars. So the top rope breaks, Rockers win the tag titles, and Vince is weird. Vince McMahon was so mad and unhappy with the match that he scrapped the damn title win. So the title win was not official. So they just gave the titles back to the Heart Foundation because Vince was unhappy that the top rope broke and he thought the match was shit. Come on, Vince. Like, it's their fault. The top rope broke. That always bothered me. That's stupid. Just like when Vince got angry in 1992 and Vince had Macho Man Randy Savage and Ric Flair restart their match and scrap the whole thing because he didn't like it. Or maybe, I don't know. Maybe the match where Ric Flair won the title back in, I think, September 92 on Primetime Wrestling. Ric Flair became a 2-time WWF champ. Maybe they didn't do the match over, but I know I heard Vince hated it. And if he hated that match where Ric Flair won the title back that I saw, it's on a Macho Man DVD. It's on the Macho Man Stories DVD. I thought it was a damn good match. I didn't think it was bad. So back to Saturday night's main event. Heart Foundation and the Rockers double disqualification. Up next, we had the Earthquake, who he was pretty new of a superstar. He came in at the end of 1989. So Earthquake defeated Hillbilly Jim. I don't remember Hillbilly Jim still wrestling in 1990, but I guess he did because he was on the show. Earthquake should have won. And he did. Nothing against Hillbilly Jim. The guy couldn't really wrestle much after 88 or 87. So now I think it was the main event. Hulk Hogan defeated Mr. Perfect. Hogan defeated Mr. Perfect. Mr. Perfect always sold super well for Hogan. The guy bumped like crazy. The guy would spin in the air and take crazy bumps for Hogan. So Hogan defeats Mr. Perfect. That's the April 28th Saturday night's main event. Now, before I get to Clash of Champions in 1990, I'm going to talk about WWF. in 1990. WCW, it was a different time in wrestling. It was a different era in wrestling because there wasn't so much wrestling on TV. It wasn't on TV that much unless you had cable and TBS and USA Network to watch, but still, with superstars being only 1 hour and prime time, I think, was 2 hours, it's only 3 hours. WWF only had 3 hours of TV for years and years and years. WCW, they had more TV. They had WCW Worldwide. They had the Power Hour. They had the main event. And they had Clash of Champion events. But WWF in 1990, again, it was a different era. That's why I like going back and taking a look at it and talking about the 1990 different time periods in wrestling, because I was a wrestling fan in 1990. I was 6 years old. And I do love talking about what I grew up watching as a kid and all the stars that I saw as a kid growing up that made me a wrestling fan. This guy is the number one reason I became a wrestling fan, is Hulk Hogan. He's the first guy I ever saw on my TV. And I don't know what it was about him, but I was hooked immediately. So WWF, again, it was a different time in 1990. They only had 4 big events, 4 pay-per-view events. Royal Rumble, WrestleMania, SummerSlam, Survivor Series. WCW, they had more pay-per-views, but not many more, only one more pay-per-view. WCW had 5. WCW had 5 pay-per-views in 1990. I think in 1989 they had 5 or 6, I believe. But this isn't about 1989. In 1990, WCW had 5 pay-per-view events. They had Wrestle War. I don't know why they had to call it Wild Thing, but they called it Wrestle War 90 Wild Thing. After Wrestle War was Capital Combat, where we saw the debut of RoboCop. Yeah, I'm not joking. RoboCop. From the movie RoboCop appeared at Capital Combat with Sting, which was unbelievably stupid. I mean, I was a fan of RoboCop. I'm still a fan of the RoboCop movies, but what the fuck was this? RoboCop comes out with Sting to fight off the Horseman. It was ridiculous. It was so stupid and so ridiculous that you gotta laugh about it now. I mean, watching it back, it's unreal that RoboCop appeared on a wrestling pay-per-view. I still can't believe it. So, you had Capital Combat, Wrestle War, Great American Bash, 1990, which was great, where Sting became the World Heavyweight Champion for the first time in his career, defeating Ric Flair in a great match and a great main event. What else is pretty unreal is, fun fact, if you didn't know, Ultimate Warrior and Sting, Jim Hellwig and Sting broke in wrestling together. They were a tag team, the Blade Runners. They were in Memphis. And they went to Mid-South in the UWF. And then, of course, they split up. And Sting, from the UWF, Sting went to the NWA. And Warrior got signed by WWF. The thing that pisses me off about not Sting becoming a world champion. I love Sting. He's one of my all-time favorites. He's probably in my top 5 all-time favorites. The thing that pisses me off is Warrior. Sting and Warrior broke in together, and they both became world champions in 1990 for the first time. That's a cool, fun fact. But what pisses me off is Warrior became champion first. Sting should have, but whatever. It was out of the control at WCW because Sting got injured. Sadly, he got injured at the Clash of Champions. So I'm going to get back to the pay-per-views. WCW had 5. WWF had 4. Again, Wrestle War, Capital Combat, Great American Bash, Halloween Havoc, and Starrcade. So now this Clash of Champions I'm going to review and talk about is where Sting blew out his knee and got injured really bad and needed knee surgery. I think he tore his ACL or MCL. He probably should have been out like 6 months or longer, but he returned really fast because he's a beast. He was a beast in 1990. He was in his prime, the prime of his career. So, Clash of Champions, February 6th, 1990. Clash of Champions 10 from Corpus Christi, Texas. I can't say that name. Whatever, who cares? I'm not from Texas. Corpus Christi, Texas. Up first, the first match, I believe, Dr. Death, Steve Williams, defeated the Samoan Savage. Dr. Death defeats the Samoan Savage. I'll be back in a second. Give me a minute. So I'm back. Again, Clash of Champions 10, February 6th, 1990. Steve Dr. Death Williams defeated the Samoan Savage. I think the Samoan Savage, I know he's in WWF. I believe he's a Tonga Kid in WWF. Before he joined the Samoan SWAT team, he was a Tonga Kid. And he was in the Islanders with Haku. So, up next we had Brian Pillman and Tom Zink. Pretty good tag team. Pillman a lot better, but Tom Zink wasn't a bad worker. I didn't like the guy's attitude. When I'm talking about backstage, the guy was a dick. He's a dick with Rick Martel and with other wrestlers. So Brian Pillman and Tom Zink, they defeated the MOD squad. The Mob Squad, I guess. I don't remember that match or who the hell the Mob Squad was. And I don't really care who they were. This was stupid up next. I felt bad for Mick Foley. Because the guy deserved better, even as 1990 Cactus Jack. He deserved better. Mil Mascaras, luchador legend. He's in the WWE Hall of Fame. So Mil Mascaras, they brought him in. I don't know why. I guess they thought more tickets would be... I believe Jim Cornette has said, I've heard him say it in many interviews, that Mil Mascaras was brought in to try to sell more tickets to the Hispanic fans that maybe would come out to see Mil Mascaras. The guy was not in his prime anymore. He was still in great shape, but so what? And I'm not trying to disrespect Mil Mascaras or any of his fans, but the guy was not in his prime and shouldn't even been on the show. Mil Mascaras defeated Cactus Jack. And they were calling him Cactus Jack Manson. Why? Just because he kind of looked like Charles Manson? Come on, that's stupid. But that was WCW for you. They did a lot of stupid shit. As I said earlier in the year, in May, they brought in RoboCop. Just because they had a deal with promoting the studio that made RoboCop. I guess that's why they had to bring in RoboCop. I don't know. Maybe the studio paid WCW for advertising the movie. Because at Clash of Champions, that I'll talk about. Clash of Champions in June, they actually did promote RoboCop 2. So maybe they were paid by the movie studio. I don't know. If they were paid, it was still stupid to bring RoboCop on a wrestling pay-per-view because the guy couldn't do anything. And I don't believe the guy playing RoboCop, I don't have a clue if it was a real actor that played him. So back to Clash of Champions 10. Mascaris basically destroyed Cactus Jack, and Cactus Jack was used as a jobber. He took a bad bump off the ring apron and just fell on concrete. That was vicious and brutal to watch. Kevin Sullivan up next. Kevin Sullivan defeated Norman the Lunatic. Nobody cared. Boring, stupid match. The Road Warriors. This was actually good. The Road Warriors defeated the Skyscrapers, Mark Callis, a.k.a. The Undertaker. But we all know he's Mark Calloway, but he's called Mark Callis. The Road Warriors defeated Mark Callis and Dan Spivey, the new Skyscrapers, by DQ. The Steiners. This was also good. The Steiners defeated Doom. Back in the late 80s, early 90s, WCW and WWF, they were loaded with a lot of great tag teams. Steiners defeat Doom. Ron Simmons and Butch Reed. Two really great workers. Steiners also great workers. Ric Flair, the main event. Ric Flair, Arn Anderson, Ole Anderson, the Four Horsemen, took on, this was weird. It was like all heels. It was heels on heels on heels. It was a 6-man tag in a rinky-dink, really just rinky-dink looking cage that looked like it was like all chicken wire. It was, I don't know, like steel square bars maybe. It looked like a weak-ass cage that was cheap as hell. So it was a 6-man tag cage match. 6-man tag in a cage. Again, the Horsemen, Ric Flair, Arn Anderson, Ole Anderson took on heels. Weird. Or maybe the Horsemen were kind of faces. I'm not really sure. I don't really remember. But I felt like they were heels because Sting was going after them. So they took on the Great Muta, the Dragon Master, and Buzz Sawyer. They were also managed by Gary Hart. It wasn't a bad 6-man tag. It wasn't that bad. Buzz Sawyer, the guy I heard had a drug problem during his wrestling career. The guy was insane, I believe. The guy's legit tough. I'm sure the guy's tough as hell and could kick ass in like bar fights and stuff. The guy's probably a bully too. He just seems like he's a bully to me and would bully other wrestlers. So Buzz Sawyer climbs up at one point to the top of the cage and dives off it and misses. That was stupid. You shouldn't have done that. Because, ow, that would hurt. So, the Horsemen defeat the Great Muta, Dragon Master, and Buzz Sawyer. The match was kind of a mess, but it was a brawl, and I enjoyed it. And then you have Sting running to the cage. Sting trying to climb the cage to get in, to get after Ric Flair. And I do believe Sting was supposed to face Ric Flair at Wrestle War 90, but Sting got injured. Sting was trying to climb the cage. Whole bunch of baby faces, Brian Pillman, Tom Zink. They're trying to hold Sting back. The Steiners. Even Wahoo McDaniels was out there. I believe the guy's an agent. So Sting comes off the cage and drops his feet and tears his knee. injures his leg. He can't move. He's limping. He's standing on one leg. He's obviously talking to refs and agents and the boys. He's telling them outside the ring by the aisle. He's like talking to someone. Obviously, he was injured. He was probably telling them, "I'm hurt. My knee went out. I can't walk." So Sting was on one leg, limping, and out of the cage comes Nature Boy Ric Flair. Obviously, he didn't know Sting was injured. He runs up to Sting, jumps on top of him, does a flip in the air and falls to the ground. And all the boys, all the baby faces are holding back Ric Flair, holding him back. Guys are screaming, hold back Flair because Sting's injured. Don't let him get to Sting. That was pretty crazy. Pretty crazy end. Really just a bad accident that Sting got injured like that. It wasn't anybody's fault. So next Clash of Champions, I'll review Clash of Champions 11 from Charleston, South Carolina, June 13th, 1990. So June 13th has been passed. So this event was 29 years ago. And a lot of the talent on it is still alive, thankfully. So I will say about this Clash of Champions 11, the crowd was really hot. The crowd was excited. They were hype. They were really into the show. And that made the show a lot better. Up first, we had the Southern Boys defeat the Fabulous Freebirds. Normal tag match. It was okay. Tommy Rich, they gave him a job in 1989 and 1990. Even 91, he was still there. So Tommy Rich basically was used as a jobber. Tommy Rich takes on the debuting, I believe, on national TV, Bam Bam Bigelow. It was great to see Bam Bam Bigelow, a young Bam Bam Bigelow. He's with his manager. God, what's the guy's name? Something Humperdinck. What's his name? I can't remember, but Sir Oliver Humperdinck, I believe, was Bam Bam's manager for a couple years. So Tommy Rich got destroyed. Got in no offense, hardly at all. And Bam Bam just destroyed him and defeated him. Up next, we had Mike Rutundo. Mike Rutundo and Tom Zink defeated Fatu and the Samoan Savage, the Samoan SWAT team. Mark Callis, The Undertaker, Mark Callis, defeated Brian Pillman. Mark Callis, by the way, came out. He was no longer a skyscraper. He came out with Paul E. Dangerously. Paul Heyman was his new manager. So Mark Callis, the guy looked damn impressive. You could see it. And Mark Callis in WCW and The Undertaker, you could see it. The guy did a lot of spots and a lot of moves that The Undertaker did. He climbed up the top. He did old school. He did the flying jumping clothesline. That was awesome stuff. And I could see Undertaker in WCW. The guy obviously had a ton of talent. The guy's a great big man. And they let him go because they were stupid. Or they just gave him his release. I don't know. This was really good. Rock and Roll Express defeated the Midnight Express by disqualification. It was a classic Rock and Roll versus Midnight Express tag match. It was pretty awesome. Barry Windham defeated Doug Furnas. Barry Windham was part of the Horsemen at the time. U.S. Champion Lex Luger. This was really stupid. Lex Luger, U.S. Champion, defeated Sid Vicious in a minute or two. I'm not joking. Clotheslined him and pinned him. And it was over. It was really dumb. Up next, we had the World Tag Team Champions. I believe the tag titles were on the line. Doom defended against the Steiners and defeated the Steiners. Paul Orndorff. Yes, Paul Orndorff, Mr. Wonderful, was in WCW in 1990. A lot of people probably don't know that or forgot it. Paul Orndorff defeated Arn Anderson. The main event, the Junkyard Dog. The guy was past his prime, but the guy was a big name and got a good pop. So I'm not going to rip and bash WCW for putting Junkyard Dog in the main event of a Clash of Champions because the guy was still over, especially in the South. A lot of their shows are in the South. A lot of their Clash of Champions. So Junkyard Dog getting a world title shot against Nature Boy Ric Flair. Ole Anderson was like Flair's manager at the time. So the match wasn't that bad. It wasn't great. It wasn't classic by any means, but it wasn't that bad. Junkyard Dog defeated Ric Flair by disqualification as Ole Anderson interfered. And then Sting came out. He was healed. His knee was healed. He actually got in the ring, started beating up Ric Flair, hip tossed him. That was awesome stuff. And then they were hyping up Great American Bash, the next pay-per-view, as they went off the air because Sting and Flair was the main event of Great American Bash. That was Clash of Champions 11. I really enjoyed Clash of Champions 11 because the crowd was really hot and a lot of matches were pretty good. The Midnight Rock and Roll was I really enjoyed, and I enjoyed the Steiner's Doom. And I enjoyed seeing Bam Bam Bigelow, and I did enjoy Junkyard Dog and Ric Flair. I did. I'm not going to lie to you. It wasn't great, but I enjoyed it. So I hope you enjoyed this Year in Wrestling 1990 Reloaded Part 1. Bye for now, everybody.